Okay, good morning and good evening, wherever you are. My name is Brian, and I'm a linguist. I've been studying different indigenous languages from North America and Australia for about 10 years now, on and off. My interests are mainly in North American languages, especially from the Diné family and also the Uto-Aztecan language family. And on the other side of the world, the Pamanyungan family in Australia. But in any case, I was asked a few weeks ago by a close friend, how does one learn a language that has a limited amount of resources? Like, how does one learn, say, Mohawk or Navajo or Nahuatl? Languages where, in which if you go to a bookstore and say, I want this in this dictionary, but we don't have it. We've got Chinese, we've got Arabic, we've got German, French, Italian, and all the more common languages. So basically rarer languages with a limited amount of resources. How does one learn it? Okay, so my answer is that it's not easy. All right. With the internet, with YouTube and Facebook and all this, communication between people from distant corners of the world have become a lot easier. So maybe that's one way to do it. And I think myself and my friends, we are starting actually different Facebook groups as well, to get people connected and hopefully to have a better understanding between indigenous communities and the broader world. So stay tuned. Okay, now, how does one learn Navajo phonology? So, we're talking about, I'll just go on to the next slide. We're talking about a group of languages. So if you look, let me try to figure out how to put a pointer. There we go. Right. So this laser pointer here. So this basically, if you can see where I'm at, this area here with a few other groups inside. This is basically the southern part of the Diné family. So you've got these languages all over here. You've got these languages here and a few on the California coast and one here and one here. They're all part of this very, very enormous family that probably originated thousands of years ago in what is now Alaska and parts of Canada and spread all the way south, hitting, in fact, very close to the Mexican border. So a very large discontinuous area. So Navajo is one of these languages. It's spoken over here, the Four Corners area, along with the other sort of Apache languages that are closely related. And there are other languages in the north, like Tlingit, like Sarsi, like Chippewayan, which is a very big language group over here. These languages are all related, and they have a lot of features in common. Pronunciation, the grammar especially is very, very similar, and also very, very, very complicated. I have to say Navajo is probably one of the most difficult languages I've ever learned in my life, and that speaks a lot because I've learned over 25 different languages from all over the world. So bear with me as I explain. All right. So one technique that I do is first and foremost to know the phonology. When you're learning a language, it's very important that you learn to distinguish sounds that the language uses, because obviously if you cannot put sounds together to form words, and words, you cannot form sentences and coherently and that people will understand, because the purpose of learning a language is to speak from day one. I think I'm a believer of the speak from day one philosophy. So if we look now, I'm just going to go here. So I've got a text actually from a very, very good textbook. If you can find it online, I've added the link, the Amazon link below, and I will put it in the description as well. It's Diné Bizaad, Speak, Read, Write Navajo by Irvy, Goossen. It's one of the best textbooks I can find. The only complaint that I have is that there's no audio. Unfortunately, it's got a lot of very nice sentences, but of course you don't hear it. But don't worry about it. Our purpose here is to learn some of the phonology and the grammar, and then we'll build from there. You can always find YouTube videos of people speaking Navajo or related languages to get an idea of what the sounds are like. Okay, so let's do it. So this is actually a short conversation that I've cut into several parts. It's between Mr. Hastin Hall, Do Kiyaji. So the do here with so basically when you look at phonology, I go with a different route. I don't look at charts and say, okay, this is an A, this letter sounds like this and this is that. No, normally what I do is I go straight to the text and I see how the sounds are put together to form words. So in this case, if the title has three parts, you've got Mr. Hall, the word N, which is do, okay, and Kiyaji, which is another name. Okay, the Yazi part is actually pronounced Yaji. It means little. If anybody knows how Navajo surnames came about, because traditionally Navajo people did not have surnames like in European cultures. I understand that the names are clan-based and they're passed down from one's parents and grandparents. So everybody has 4 clans. The most important clan is your mother's 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 clan on your maternal side. And basically when you introduce yourself, you have to introduce the 4 clans. So very recently, of course, with the formal sort of what do you call it? This formal ID and stuff like that they have in the US. You need to have a name and a family name, like the rest of the American population. So I'm curious how Navajo people chose their American surnames. But Yazi is interesting. It comes from Yeje, which means small or little. So a couple of things for you to take note. First things first. In a conversation, what do you say? You say hello. You greet. So the greetings are very important in Navajo, just like in any language, any other language. Let's start with Mr. Hall. So the word hastin, okay, is the word for man. It's also part of a title like Mr. To show respect, you call a person hastin, so and so. So Mr. Hall and ki. Ki, I think, is actually the short form of ashki, which means boy. So I think it's ashki. But let's take a look at the phonology, alright? So the first things first, Mr. Hall says hello, boy. Hello, boy. So yate ashki, alright? And ki replies, okay, oh. All right. Just those 2 sentences together, we can see a lot of things. There's a lot of information about the phonology. All right. First things first. The word yate, which means hello, it has many, many functions. We'll look at the word hello. It can be used, for example, to mean to like something, for example, or to be well, to be good. So not just hello. I think in some instances, even goodbye, you can say yate as well. So you'll notice that the ya, there are in fact 3 syllables. So a lot of people, when they're learning this language, they'll say something like yate or something. I've heard Americans try to pronounce it. That's actually wrong because it's the same as in English, like not respecting the vowel sounds. If I say like, the rich man reached for the, for the spoon. It doesn't make sense in English because reach and rich are different sounds, right? There's reach as into reach or something and rich as in a rich person. That you can't switch them around. For the same reason, you cannot switch ya and ya. Te and te are different sounds, different words, okay, different meanings. So we have to bear in mind that, alright? So it's ya, te. So you see there are 3 or 4 things going on. The short a, they're separated by a glottal stop. That's the glottal stop there. The accent marks that go up like this, the acute accents are high tone. So Navajo is a tone language like Chinese. So in the word yate, every syllable is high, so you have to maintain a high pitch throughout the word. Yate. Alright, and the H at the end of the word is pronounced like a soft breath. And it means hello, right? Yate. And then the next word is pronounced low. See, there's no marks at all. It's pronounced completely low. Ashki. So, the K in Navajo is pronounced a little bit stronger with a lot of breath. K. And depends on what sound comes after. If it's an I, it becomes more like a k sound. If it's an A or O, it's more like a k or a k kind of sound. But we'll see the more examples later on. Okay, so that's the phonology. So, yate ashki. And then the boy, ki, he says, oh, yate. So, oh means yes. So you've got a short A, and a long O sound. And the glottal stop. Don't forget the glottal stop, which is this mark over here. Alright, this is a glottal stop. And that basically is a break in your voice when you say something like, uh-oh. A British person might say button for button or water. That break between the 2 syllables, that's the glottal stop. In German, like the word for club, Verein, that break. If you can do that, if you can do an imitation of an English person from London who says water, that break in the middle of 2 syllables, that is a glottal stop. So, oh, and yate, alright? So the T, again, moving into the T sound, the T with the glottal stop is actually an ejective stop. So in Navajo, there are quite a few of these sounds. There's a alright? And they're all pronounced, with by ejecting or pushing out. Using the glottal stop, the glottis over here in your throat, you're actually pushing out the sounds. It's not a click sound. Some people say it sounds like a click. It isn't, because in African languages and in Southern Africa, when you make a click, you're actually sort of sucking air inside. So it goes in, but when you do an ejective, it comes out, you're pushing it out. So you can actually almost relax your mouth and pretend that you are doing, you're like a DJ trying to make to imitate a cracking record. So You know, try it with me. Right? If you can do that, that's the sound. So which means hello. All right, so that's all the vowels we have here. Now, once we move down, again, remember, long and short sounds are very, very important, and the tone. So Mr. Hall says, "What is your name?" Okay, so the word for what is hash. So the R is long, and the H at the beginning of a word is more like a sound. Okay, it's not as harsh as in some Arabic dialects. It's probably like a bit like German. Yeah, like the German laut sound. All right, so harsh is basically what. For now, we'll just think of it as what. It actually breaks down into two parts, but we'll just think of it as a question meaning what. And the verb is yinilye. So remember, low, high, high. Yinilye, which means basically to be called. You are called, basically. So what you are called, or what do they call you? Yeah. Ashki, boy. So like, what's your name, boy? Okay. Hash yinilye ashki. That's what it means. And, of course, Mr. Kiyaje says, Kiyaje yinishye. So he says, my name is, Kiyaje yinishye. Nishan. So, Nishan means, and you? How about you? Okay, so, alright, so let's look at a couple of things here going on. Of course, the word for, what is your name? Literally is what you are called. The you are called is always at the end of the sentence. And that is a very, very important rule. In Navajo, always verbs, things that are not things, but actions rather than things, are always at the end of a sentence. So it's like I, you, saw, I, fish, ate, that kind of structure. So it's always at the end of a sentence. Very, very, that's the only location you will find it most of the time. And it's strictly followed. Okay, so you have so what's your name? What are you called? And then you will notice also that because Navajo, the verbs are very, very complicated, the word for you are called, yinilye, is actually broken into 3, 4, maybe 5 different parts. And among these things is, of course, the different tenses, and also the pronoun you. The you is already inside there. So you don't have to say you are called. People don't notice that when you speak Navajo, you don't use pronouns a lot. Like if you're learning Arabic or Japanese as well, you don't use Korean, you don't use you, I, me, he or she as often as in English, all right, because of this. So the same thing with the last sentence, ki yaje yinishye, my name is, literally ki yaje, I am called, okay? And the final thing is nishan. Now we've got another sound here that you probably didn't see in the other sentences, the nasal sound. So the A with the hook at the bottom, that's it comes out through your nose. Nishan. And glottal stop. So nishan. So ni with a low tone means you. When you're talking to one person, like in Arabic, when you talk with one person, 2 people, and 3 or more, you use different words for you. So in Navajo, ni is you, one person. Nihe is like talking with 2 people, and you go beyond that is tanhe, which means you guys, you all, 3 or more. Okay, so ni is you, and the shan means like, it's basically you're asking a question like, what about you? Okay, it can be used in a sentence like if you're talking with friends and then you're asking, are you feeling okay? I'm okay. What about John? John shan, like, let's talk about John instead. Or you can ask like, where is John? John shan in Navajo means basically, where is he? You're changing the topic. It's a little bit like wa in Japanese. If you learn Japanese, John-san wa, korewa. You can use this as well. It's not used as often as in Japanese, but it's generally used in questions to basically change the topic. And how about, this person? Okay, so let's move on and take a look at now that we've sort of gotten a rough idea of how sentences sound like and how they're formed, let's look at the sounds one by one. Okay, so I got this example from the same textbook by Goossen. I say, check it out. It's amazing. So there are 4 vowels in Navajo. We've seen all 4 of them in action. So these are the short, o, and the short a in the word juniper is good. I've heard people say good, and some people say good with a g sound. If you're a native speaker, do correct me. Let me know which was more correct, or if this is dialect variation, because I know like the word for rabbit, which is gah, short a, g. It sounds like g, like a g sound. It's not really a g. It's like a k without breath, like the C in Spanish, a little bit. But Navajo, I've noticed that some people pronounce it with a bit of a l sound slightly. But again, if you're a native speaker watching this, correct me, please. criticize me. Feel free to interact with me and let's have a conversation. The E, ah. So, ah means west, so it's very short. The I is like to sit, so sis is a belt, alright? And then the O of cactus is like hosh. So again, the H with the H-O is like a little bit rounded here because of the O, hosh, which is cactus. And it's between an O and an U sound, somewhere between, alright? Hosh. We go down, so I've made the bottom, rows and columns a bit bigger, so you can sort of get the idea. These are big sounds, long sounds. Sad is a word. Okay. Bizaad means his language. So we're going to look at it later on because the word sad means word or language. But when you put a prefix in front, often it becomes a z. We will look at this as we go along. We'll find more examples. The word for T is te. And you'll notice that the D, any B and D sounds are not really like the English B and D. They're not as voice. It's like p, t. Okay. The word for coffee, ahue. Some people say gohue. I've heard this as well. Ahue. The word for this or these, ti. You notice how I don't have really like the sound. It's a light T with no breath. Ti. And then, B means into something. The word for and, we've already seen it in the previous text. Do means and the final one, he is called yitlo. So the DL is a tl sound. When we look at consonants, we'll see how to make these sounds. So there are quite a few sounds like this, a DL sound. There's an L with a bar across it that is pronounced. There's this one, which is a tl. And there's the TL, which is a tl. And there's a which comes from there. Okay. Okay, so moving on to the next words, or the next few words. So we talked about the A with the hook. In fact, all the 4 vowels can have little hooks at the bottom, which makes it nasal. So when it's nasal, you pronounce it through your nose, like in French. So let's take a look. So the word for he is eating is ayen. So low, high. And the second A is nasalized. Ayen. All right. Atata, which means yesterday. Going down onto the other side, aneskins. So there's a kins, that's a glottalized, that's an ejective sound, a glottalized sound, whatever you call it. Very, very common in Navajo. So aneskins. And then the word for where, hade, which is where. So it's the A. The first A is ah with a high, sustained high pitch. Ah. The E is with a nasal, and it ends in a glottal stop. Hade. Okay. Hade. And then if you go down, tien means come on, low tone. And then for salt, ashin, again, high, low. The I's are nasal, and they end in an H. Ashin, salt. Son is the word for star. Son, short with a glottal stop. Don't forget the glottal stop. Son. And then nodons means striped, something striped. Nodons. All right. That's about it, really. So if you're interested, if you like what you've seen, let me know. I'm going to do more videos. I've got a couple of languages that I'm trying. Not a couple, like 3 or 4 different languages that I'm going to explain in these series. Probably Nahuatl. That's the one at the bottom. The word for thank you is ahihe. In Navajo. Cree, that's the one in the beautiful script. I might explain a little bit about how the Cree writing system works. And recently I've started learning Greenlandic. So yes, so let's go through the whole of North America and take a look at some of the languages there. It's a very, very interesting linguistic world. Let me know if in the comments below if you like it, and stay tuned.